When you believe, anything is possible. There's a quote I've always remembered. When you believe you can, you're already halfway there. Back then, I didn't truly understand what it meant. I used to think belief was just an emotion, something people said to make others feel better, not something that could actually change reality. But life taught me the most valuable lesson of all. Nothing is impossible when you truly believe. This story begins in a small village lying quietly at the foot of a mountain. There lived a boy named Anne who dreamed of one day flying into the sky. People laughed when they heard that. Fly into the sky? That kid's out of his mind. He's poor, barely finished middle school. How could he ever build a plane? Anne said nothing. He just smiled quietly. But in his eyes there was a strange light, the light of belief. Anne's father had passed away early. His mother carried goods for hire to make a living, working from dawn till midnight. He grew up surrounded by whispers, pity, and doubt. Every evening, he climbed a small hill behind his house to watch the birds returning to their nests. They can fly? Why can't I? He whispered to himself. One day, he found an old book at the village library about the Wright brothers, the first people to invent an airplane. He read it again and again, eyes glowing with wonder. From that day on, he started collecting aluminum cans, old wood, broken bicycle parts, anything he could find, and built his own model airplane. Kids in the neighborhood laughed. "That thing's never gonna fly, Anne." He just smiled and said, "If others could do it, why can't I?" Many nights, Anne lay awake, listening to the wind howl through the cracks of his window, filled with self-doubt. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm crazy. I'm just a poor kid. How could I ever build a plane? But then, he remembered a quote from the book. Those who changed the world were once called crazy. He smiled that night and decided he would no longer wait for anyone to believe in him. Because he finally understood, true belief doesn't come from the eyes of others. It comes from your own heart. The road is never easy, and began teaching himself mechanics from old books and short online videos. He had no computer. Every week he went to an internet cafe, copied formulas into his notebook, and studied them under dim candlelight. Sometimes he couldn't afford the fee, so he just sat outside, watching others learn. When the rain ruined his notes, he rewrote every line again. His mother, watching him, felt both proud and worried. "Son, I just don't want you to suffer. Some dreams are too far, my dear." And held her hand and smiled. "I just need you to believe in me, even a little." She nodded. From that day, though she didn't fully understand what he was doing, she saved every little bit she could to buy him tools. Because she believed, as long as her son had faith, he would never lose his way. After nearly 2 years, Anne finally built a small flying model. It looked like a metallic kite powered by a small solar battery. He brought it up the hill, took a deep breath, and flipped the switch. The machine buzzed, then crashed. A loud crack. One of the wings broke and froze, staring at the twisted metal on the ground. 2 years of effort, gone in a second. He sat down, eyes stinging. In his mind, voices echoed, "I told you it wouldn't work." "Who do you think you are?" Tears fell. But then he remembered his mother's eyes and his own reflection in the mirror. "No, I haven't failed. I've just not succeeded yet." He wiped his tears, picked up every broken piece, and walked home. 3 months later, he tried again. This time he studied harder, learned more about aerodynamics, and worked with greater precision. His hands were covered in burns and cuts. He even caused a small explosion once by connecting a battery the wrong way. But Anne didn't stop. He knew, belief isn't what you say, it's what you prove through persistence. Then one morning, as sunlight cut through the clouds, he brought his new model to the same hill. He pressed the button. The machine trembled, lifted, and began to fly, unsteadily but truly flying, and shouted with joy, tears running down his face. In that moment he understood, the power of belief was real. That small success only fueled his determination. He enrolled in a technical school, working part-time jobs to afford tuition. Every dollar he saved went into his dream. His teachers noticed. "I've never seen anyone with your persistence," one said. "You have something rare, belief." And smiled. He knew the journey was still long, but now he was no longer afraid of failure, because every failure made him stronger. He once heard a saying, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase." And he kept taking steps. 10 years passed. The boy was now a grown man, working at a small engineering workshop, but he never forgot his childhood dream. Using his savings and everything he'd learned, and began designing a lightweight aircraft for domestic travel. People still doubted him. "You're just a mechanic. Don't aim too high." And smiled again. "I've heard that my whole life." 3 years later, his aircraft took its first successful flight. The entire village came to watch. His aging mother stood in the crowd, tears in her eyes. On the plane's body, the name was painted, Faith. When you believe, the universe responds. After that success, and didn't stop, he opened free classes to teach poor children about mechanics and creativity. He told them, "You don't need to have everything, you just need to start and believe." A little boy asked, "What if we fail?" And smiled. Failure isn't the end. The only real failure is when you stop believing you can try again. He understood now, when you truly believe, the universe quietly rearranges itself to help you. Good people appear, opportunities show up, and miracles, they happen. If today you're facing difficulties, if someone told you you can't, remember they are only speaking from their own limits, not yours. This world is full of doubters, but it only takes one believer to change everything, and that believer is you. Belief is not magic. It's a quiet flame that keeps you moving, trying, and shining even in the darkest times. When you believe in yourself, you turn impossible into possible. You turn dreams into reality. And stood again on the same hill, watching birds glide across the golden sunset. He smiled and whispered, "If I hadn't believed back then, I wouldn't be here now." Belief, it's where every journey begins. Not money, not luck, but belief. That's what makes us extraordinary. And if you're listening to this story now, remember, anything is possible. Just believe. Belief doesn't make the road easier, but it makes every step worthwhile. Start, even if it's small. Believe, even if no one else does. Because one spark of faith can chase away the darkest fear. If you find this video interesting and meaningful, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel.